I grew up in the like tail end of everything of like the 90s, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
And so I grew up, I had like VCRs growing up. I don't know if you had those. I had CDs, I had cassette tapes and everything. And so it was really interesting because like when I was younger, I used to watch like Disney movies on VCR, and then it slowly went into DVDs, which was fine because I grew up with both. But then when Disney came out with their streaming service, everyone was like,
Oh my gosh, it's only $6 a month. This is so cool.
and now they don't have a need for VCRs or DVDs anymore.
These Disney Channel original movies, more than other movies that were made at the same time, seem to be such a product of the era. You can go back and watch something like High School Musical, and it's so clear that it's an early 2000s movie. And there were other movies that were made in that time frame that don't seem super dated yet, but for some reason, all of these movies do, and I don't know why.
Um, One part of it for me is the clothing.
That,
So
yeah,
like looking back from what I wore back in like 2010 till now, I know I'm like 10 years older than I was, but like looking at what 10-year-olds wear now and back when I was 10 is vastly different. And so it was the
yeah.
same thing for what they wore for high school and what was considered cool. Like nowadays, wearing like designer clothes and whatever else is considered cool. And then back then it was like Abercrombie or something.
Objectively, most of them like aren't that good, but for some reason, we all love them so much. Like there were several moments in High School Musical when Zac Efron stared like directly into the camera unintentionally, but somehow it's such a good movie, and it's so interesting to look at these films, and I don't really know what it is about them that makes them so perfect, despite how they are definitely not.
I was gonna say the plot lines are definitely all the same throughout. So
Yeah.
like High School Musical, there's like, oh, they have issues, and then like Lemonade Mouth, for example, they
Mm.
have issues. Well, it's fine, and then they have issues, and then they're fine again, or whatever else. But it's all the basis around of like, oh, you're gonna have these issues when you're a teenager, and that's absolutely not the case.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not at all a realistic portrayal of high school. I mean, not to mention
No.
that people don't just randomly break into song and dance in the cafeteria.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Another big Disney Channel movie was Camp Rock. I don't know if you watched Camp Rock, but I
Oh
liked
yeah.
it better than High School Musical. Which one did you like
Where
better?
I liked High School Musical more, and I think it's just that I performed in the stage adaptation because I don't think I liked it before that like as much. So I think I just nostalgic because I was in it. Even though my character wasn't actually in it, they added that character for the stage adaptation. But you know,
I think honestly doing the stage adaptation made me hate High School Musical more just because
that's fair.
I was a senior, so like I did three other shows and I was like, this is what we picked.
That's fair.
But yeah, I definitely was more of a Camp Rock person, mainly because I was in love with all three of the Jonas Brothers. And so I was like,
Oh my gosh, they're on screen. I can go see them at the movies.
and so and I just it had more of a plot line. Like all the
That's fair.
what was it, two or three movies they had weren't the same. Like I felt like the High School Musical movies were all the same.
Oh yeah, it was just like one of them is a school, and one of them is at a resort. That's
And the other one they're graduating
yeah, yeah.
and she's got to go her own way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the most melodramatic thing to ever happen to anyone.
And then doesn't she end up not going or something?
Yeah, I think she leaves and then comes back because she realized that Troy was what was really important to her. I don't know.
Can you imagine like your parent letting you do that? Like no.
Oh no, no, for sure. I do think that the stage adaptation of High School Musical is very illuminating because they tried so hard to make a Disney Channel original movie into a legitimate plot, and it did not work. It's because the original movie is cheesy, and I think even at the time it was cheesy, but it knew that it was cheesy. I'm getting tired of saying the word cheesy, but it embraced it, so it was fine. And then in the move to the stage, for some reason, they decided to make this their love story like an actual thing, and
And it was more dramatic.
You never know what you're gonna feel. Oh, you never see it coming, suddenly it's real. I can't take my eyes off of you. Oh, I know you feel the same way too.
yeah, and it almost seemed to treat them like adults, which kind of takes the whole point of it out.
I was gonna say for background, Mark and I went to the same high school and we did High School Musical and we were both in like the same, there were different cliques. and we were both in the theater clique, and so we were definitely got to do like more backstage stuff because we were never included. For some reason, we were never included in a production about High School Musical, which is singing and dancing.
Hey, even in theater, the theater kids aren't important.
Never, ever. With streaming, because it's like now it's fully accessed, they're not getting as much hype as they used to.
Mhm.
Like it's the younger generation experiencing the movies and they're not interested.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was something to having a movie that was going to premiere on the Disney Channel for the first time. It was an event that you couldn't miss. And now they have a similar event with the Disney Plus launches, but at least it seems to me like it's not as much of an event because it's also going to be there at any time. Instead of if you don't watch it now, you have to wait 2 weeks for it to air again. It's just watch it
Mhm.
tomorrow or watch it the next morning when you're not in bed.
You don't have to Google like the TV schedule or whatever.
Hmm.
Definitely interesting. I know this isn't technically a movie, but it's based off a movie. High School Musical. Is it High School Musical, the musical, the series?
Yes, and now they're on High School Musical, the musical, the series, season 2, which
Is it? But they're not doing High School Musical, are they?
no, it's Beauty and the Beast. They're doing Beauty and the Beast, but they
That's
can't call it
awkward.
Beauty and the Beast, the musical, whatever.
They could do High School Musical, the musical, Beauty and the Beast. I don't know.
Which is also season 2. But like, this is you could find any name, and you went with the one that was boring, super long, and just describe what the show is.
And then they did a second season.
Yeah, from a storytelling perspective, the stories themselves have changed because I think that, at least in my opinion, the closest story to High School Musical, other than the show that shall not be named, is probably Descendants. That seems to be the big movie musical series that everyone likes, just in a similar way to High School Musical.
I have something to admit. I've never seen Descendants.
Rude. Rude.
I was actually in Europe when we found out that Cameron Boyce died, and that was very, very sad. He's a very good actor, and I heard he was very good in those movies.
He was fantastic.
But yeah, I've never seen him. Isn't there like 2 or 3?
Yeah, there's 3, and I guess there's like a spin-off cartoon that they're making.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna work.
And there's a stage adaptation.
Yes, there was also a stage adaptation that is the plot of the first movie, but has music from all 3 of them kind of crammed in there. So it is just very disjointed. I read the libretto, and it was.
High School Musical just sang about everything and danced on tables and was freaking out about their love life at 17.
Basically. And Descendants does the exact same thing. And it even has the same, most of the musical numbers are not acknowledged to be music in the universe, but there are also some musical performances. And it's very similar. I think they're both directed by the same guy, but it does feel like a very modern version of High School Musical in terms of storytelling.
Yeah. I like that they do like the kids of the villains too, because I am very much like Disney like classics.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was the part that intrigued me. I just honestly haven't watched it. I'm assuming it's on Disney Plus. So
it is, yes.
Everyone's moving to the streaming services. Like I personally have like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Peacock, Paramount Plus, like all that stuff, and it's like you don't need to watch actual TV anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's very interesting is with the introduction of all those services, you're starting to see a lot of people ask, okay, so why is Disney Channel still around? What are they going to do? And I think that some countries have already lost the channel. So I feel like pretty soon here we're going to see that channel disappear entirely because there's so much that's just being replaced by Disney Plus originals.
I think in the UK, they don't have Disney anymore on Disney Channel. Like they don't have a Disney Channel anymore.
Yeah.
That's going to be sad. That's like an end of an era right there.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that it has mostly been kind of replaced with the Disney Plus original. But again, you're losing that kind of cultural milestone of having those premiere times and having the ability to just pick a channel and you don't know exactly what's on, but you pick the Disney Channel and there's something on. And I know that I started watching new shows because I was bored. And so that was often on in the background of my house while I'm doing whatever. And I'd be like, oh, this is a good movie. Or it would show Finding Nemo at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when there wasn't anything else to show. And that really doesn't happen when you have to pick what you want to see first.
I know. It's like now you can watch whatever you want instead of waiting like, oh, my show's on at this time. I don't know. It makes me kind of sad because it's like I'm glad we're having technology developments, but at the same time, it's like in 5 years, are we even going to have like satellite TV? Well, I'm sure we will. But for me, for a college kid that goes back and forth, it's such an easy way to like start watching my stuff. So I would go off when I was in my dorm and I'd watch like something on Hulu and I could just come home and finish it.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a lot easier to use, but it does bring a lot of questions about, the release. WandaVision, which isn't a Disney Channel production, clearly, but they got a lot of fans mad because they released episodes weekly instead of all at once. And so the suspense there, trying to figure out what was going to happen next, was a big deal. And High School Musical, the series, and I guess now season 2, also do that, where they release them weekly, which I think tries to mirror the TV release schedule.
Which I like, because then you can pace yourself, because knowing me, like I'm watching House, which is like a med drama right now, and I'm just like banging the episodes out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not good for you. Don't do that, kids.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have this one camp that says that we should release all of the episodes at once because we can watch everything else. Why shouldn't we be able to just watch all the episodes when we want to? But on the other hand, you also have that kind of traditional structure and that kind of cultural event that I think goes away if you can just watch them all at once and you don't have to wait from week to week. If the new Disney Plus show lasts for a day instead of 8 weeks or however long the season is, I think you lose part of that experience, which is part of what you're finding now.
Well, because like WandaVision and stuff, like that had a lot of suspenseful things apparently, and so it gives that like it makes you come back.
Right. And I do think that the Disney Plus originals that are kind of taking the place of the Disney Channel original movies seem to be, I don't want to say less cringy, because it's not that the original movies were cringy, but they kind of were. And I think that you're not finding that as much because High School Musical, the series, does understand that it is a mockumentary, which is a sequel to a movie that was made like 20 years ago. And it's all very quirky, but it does so in a way that seems, it's a movie that, or it's a series that I think adults can also watch, which isn't something that could be said for all of the Disney Channel original movies. It was definitely very much made for the kids, and the adults might like some of them, but I think you're finding more content that can be watched by everybody, which I think is a fundamental shift in the way these movies are being made.
Well, and it's like, yeah, exactly. So my mom wasn't a big fan of like anything like High School Musical, Camp Rock, not really, but I feel like High School Musical the series, she'd probably watch. So I definitely think they're trying to make it for like all ages now instead of just like 10 to 13-year-olds.
Yeah. I think that the audience of the Disney Channel, or what it's becoming, has just changed, which is interesting to say the least.
I was going to say, it's definitely like with all the streaming services, and like during COVID, they were like, okay, we're going to get these movies out during the streaming services, but also if you want early access per se, you have to pay like $30. It's called Premier Access, I think, on Disney Plus.
Right.
And so it's like, is it really worth it? Because if you were watching this on television, you wouldn't have to pay for it. But now, if you want to watch it when it comes out, you have to pay $30 for it.
Yeah. It's and I think that in addition to the Disney Channel original movies and the new Disney Channel type releases are being put in the same spot as all of the the Mandalorian and all the Marvel movies and movies that are rated PG-13, and there are kids profiles that can filter that. But I think that there is something to be said about the fact that you have access to pretty much anything you want whenever you want, which is really cool, but also I do think changes how it just needs to be made. I think that it needs to be a different kind of programming because it isn't it's like you were saying, it isn't just 10 to 13-year-olds that are watching it during the summer when they have nothing else to do. It's anybody can watch it at any time, however often they want to, which I think means it needs to stand up to more repeat viewings and it needs to have a wider audience.
Right. I know. It's definitely like 50-50 for me about like the whole Disney classics versus like Disney Plus stuff, because like I said, I grew up watching them on TV, and so now it's like it makes me feel old, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm only 20.
Exactly.
So I wonder if this is how people felt when like we went from like cassette tapes to CDs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. It does seem like it's a similar thing though, where the idea of a channel that just always runs Disney stuff is kind of ending, and it's gonna be a different landscape in terms of what gets made now.
Agreed. It's weird. Like when we have kids, it's probably gonna be completely different.
Oh, I'm sure. We're gonna be like, oh, back in our day, we had a Disney Channel, and they showed movies all day. I watched Finding Nemo at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I had to wait 4 weeks to see the High School Musical too.
It's gonna be like our parents telling us they had to walk in the snow to school. We're gonna be like, we had to watch this on TV. We had to wait.
It's quite the change in the landscape.